Hello, everyone. My name is Todd Creviston. I'm a benefit educator at Wespath. Today, we also have Cheryl Hatcher with us, and we will be, I'm coming to you live from my basement in suburban Chicago, and we have a multi-state presentation for you today.
Definitely, because I'm Cheryl Hatcher, a senior benefit plans specialist, and I'm actually coming to you from Kenosha, Wisconsin. Yes, so 2 states are involved here in this webinar.
Excellent. And our offices are actually located in Glenview, Illinois. So we have about an hour's worth of content for you. It's the road to retirement. It's all the things that you can be thinking about for retirement, whether you're going to retire next July 1 or it might be a couple of years away. And to get you oriented, the dashboard that you see that says go to webinar at the bottom has got some great stuff in there for you. If you go down to the little arrow, it should be pointing to the right. If you click on that, it'll expand a section that will allow you to download those 5 handouts. So we have UMPIP at a glance, CRSP at a glance. Those are both retirement plans, right? Then EY financial planning, fabulous document, and even a better group of people to work with. The retirement checklist we'll talk a little bit about today. This is a newer kind of document for Wespath. Actually, that's your roadmap or that's your timeline on when to get things done and when to do certain things. With regards to your retirement, we'll cover that. And then spend retirement right with Wespath. That's another great PDF. So you can actually click on those and download them. And then you'll see a question box. And you can click on that arrow and it'll expand it. And you can enter your questions as we go. I see that we already have a question, and it's, can I leave money in a savings account with Wespath for an emergency fund? Most definitely you can leave your money here at Wespath. You might, in what account, it kind of depends. If you're in life stage investment management, it's going to place your account balances in a series of funds based on your risk profile, your time to retirement, things like that. If you self-manage, you could stick some money in, or that amount of money into your stable value fund, and that would be kind of like a savings account for an emergency fund. I would suggest having the emergency fund more readily available. For example, I just found out I need brakes for a car. So rather than having to go in and get a distribution from Wespath, just go into my emergency fund that's at my local credit union. So we'll give you that.
That's what I would recommend too.
And then what are we going to talk about today, Cheryl?
Well, let's see. So this agenda here, we're talking about the road to retirement. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about retirement and that whole process. If you're going to be retiring next year or maybe even a few years from now. We're going to talk about all the different types of plans that we have available. We're going to go into some detail on all of those. Todd and I will be discussing those. And then also let's talk about the life stage retirement income and what it can do and its advantages. We're also going to talk about the ever popular housing allowance exclusion. That's great for clergy and how it can help save on taxes. And then also let's talk about the participant resources that are available to you. If nothing else, Wespath is loaded with a bunch of resources available, and we want to make sure that you're aware of them and that you utilize them to make sure that you're getting the best options for you, and all the information that you can ever want and need is there and at your fingertips. So with that, we've got a lot going on. So Todd, let's start her up.
That is terrific. And I should highlight those participant resources are also listed in that retirement checklist that we'll cover. So, so let's talk about retirement. So how do you feel about retiring right now? What does that look like? What we'd like to do is pull up a poll and have you indicate in one word how you're feeling about your retirement right now. So it'll take a second or two to get the.
So the poll should be up and out there for everyone to see.
Perfect.
So Yep. So as Ty was saying, if you could use just one word only, to describe how you're feeling about retirement, what would that word be? We've got a few selections here, such as excited, unprepared, prepared, or even anxious. So feel free to designate one of those and see what you think. We're going to wait for this to go on. So Todd, how do you think people will be responding to this?
Oh, the adjectives that I've heard. First, apprehensive. Not sure if they've picked the right time. I've heard excited,
Mhm.
that they, have a couple of plans that they want to do. They know what their July 1 is going to look like. I've had folks say prepared. I've had the opposite say unprepared. And if I would say if you're feeling unprepared, there's still plenty of time to figure it out, particularly if you're not going to retire next July. And even
Correct.
if you are going to retire next July, there's still plenty of time to figure it out. I think all of these are normal and natural. It's a big life changing situation.
It
Uh,
definitely is. It definitely is. And so let's pull up what the responses have been.
okay,
And let's go ahead and share these here. All right, so look at that. Honestly, okay, 45% are anxious, and that's completely understandable. As far as the 23% are unprepared, hey, that's why you're here. You're here to learn more about what to do in retirement. So Todd, go ahead and take the others. We can see that 23% are actually excited and 9% are prepared. So that's wonderful, wonderful to
perfect.
see.
Those are
All
great
right.
numbers.
Yeah, they really are. They really are great numbers. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about other types of feelings that you may be having.
Great. Thank you, Cheryl. And you could still see my screen?
And let me see here. I still seem to have polls up. Let me check that. Sorry for the technical difficulties here. Just want to make sure we're able to continue on here. And yes, we can continue on with your presentation, Todd.
Perfect. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So some common thoughts. Is now the right time? So, or should you wait? There's been some volatility in the stock market. There's been some, it's about picking what is the right time. I just saw another question come through, and I forgot to say that yes, this will be recorded, and we will send it out to you along with any of the questions that we weren't able to get to during the broadcast. So enter your questions. If we can't answer them during live, we will send you a follow-up with that answer, along with an email, along with a link to that recording. So am I ready? Am I ready to retire? Is my spouse ready to retire? Is your spouse ready to have you around the house together more? I know when my wife and I first started working at home at the same time, back in 2020, it was a bit clunky. It was a bit odd. We've since gotten used to that. It's almost like being retired working from home. Because I'm around my wife now more than I definitely used to be. So all of those are common thoughts. Then you could think about money. Will you have enough money? What does that look like? What are your sources of money? Do you have an IRA that's outside of Wespath? Do you have inheritance coming? Does your spouse have inheritance coming? Does your spouse have their own retirement plan and retirement money and income? Because when we're talking about the replacement ratio and that, it's really about household income, household expenses. Where will you live? Do you have a are you living in a parsonage? Will you buy a home for the first time in retirement? Will you rent? Will you leave the state? In chatting with clergy over the years, all of those were very real thoughts and things that they were planning on doing. selling their home that they currently have, moving out of state, getting closer to grandkids. I've chatted with a couple that were moving out of the country. And actually I chatted with one that was planning on selling the house and then hopping on a sailboat and spending their time sailing. So the retirement is very individual, from retirement income needs to retirement income to what your plans are. It's very individual. And some things that we'd like to ask is, what are you packing for your road trip? What will your retirement look like? And even if your retirement is July 1 of 2023, there's still plenty of time to figure that out. And as you'll see as we go through the presentation, there's a number of resources available to you that can help you figure out what your July 1 looks like. And I love asking clergy what their July 1 looks like. So first, what kind of retirement are you looking at? And for that, we have to take a look at the Book of Discipline. So the Book of Discipline defines retirement in a couple different ways. So full retirement, or normal retirement, is reaching the age of 65 or 40 years of service. Early retirement is attaining the age of 62 or reaching 30 years of service. Mandatory is age 72. I've had a number of clergy in consultations lately that were nearing that mandatory retirement age. And then there's a 20-year retirement. It's voluntary with 20 years of service. So maybe started in ministry at 35, early retirement, 20-year retirement at 55. Then you'd come back at earliest at 62 to begin your benefits. Mm-hmm. And now we have a second polling question for you.
Our second poll. So based on everything that Todd just talked about, what is the type of retirement that you're looking at? So that poll is up now. So the poll is, what type of retirement are you looking at? Are you looking at the normal retirement or early retirement, mandatory or 20-year? So Todd, I don't know about you, but I'll probably be working till 72, but I would like to do the 20-year retirement. So
well,
how about you?
Well, and I love running projections out of Benefit Access. I'll run a benefit projection when I turn 65, and then each year all the way up until 70, 72. So it's interesting to see how the account balance grows. As a layperson working at Wespath, we have access, or our retirement plan is UMPIP, and I'll run a projection just to see what the income looks like. And I'll tell you, it looks a lot better the later you go, but there's got to be a point where we say enough. And I do have a hobby that my wife laughs at me about. On Instagram, my Instagram feed is nothing but boats, and I'm just looking at different kinds of boats.
Oh,
I don't know if
sounds
a
pretty
boat
cool.
is in my future, but it looks like about half of the group is looking at normal retirement, so attaining the age of 65 or 40 years of service. Next up is 24%, so 24% will be early retirement, so that's attaining the age of 62 or 30 years of service.
Correct.
12% are reaching age, are looking at 80 or 72, and a couple are looking at a 20-year retirement.
Mm-hmm. So a great mix of times to retire. So this is a great webinar for you to be looking at and see what you need to do to get on that road to retirement. So let's continue on with the presentation.
Thank you, Cheryl. So let's take a look at the retirement process for 2023. So if you're retiring next year, we suggest a couple of things to do. And primarily is to follow the checklist, and that checklist is in the dashboard. You can actually download it. So that checklist will provide things that you should be doing today, tomorrow, like logging into Benefits Access, checking out Benefits Access. So that that checklist is really your road to retirement. And it looks like this. So it's difficult to read as a slide, but you have that in the dashboard that you can pull down and take a look at. That the upper left-hand section over here is actually kind of what you'll start doing soon. And then we could start packing. So that retirement checklist, it's recommended that you verify your personal information, make sure everything is correct, your address is updated, all of that great stuff. Do the same for your spouse. Make sure all your spouse's information is correct. Then take a look at your clergy service record. And the reason why the clergy service record being accurate is so important, your benefits are derived from that. So in particular, CRSP defined benefit is derived from that. And then review and update your life stage investment management profile. So for those folks who have on the phone today that have MPP, your MPP account is managed by Life Stage Investment Management. You can also have Life Stage Investment Management manage your UMPIP and your CRSP DC account. And then project your retirement income. And you could run it a number of different scenarios, different cost of living adjustments, different retirement dates, maybe at 65, maybe at 66, maybe at 62. I always tell folks that you can't break it, and the adjustments or the things you're selecting is just related to that benefit projection. I had a clergy person early on in demonstrating the benefit projection with them during a consultation. They were nervous that, oh no, this is going to make my choice. No. When you run a projection, that's just your choice for the projection. That's the variables that are being chosen to estimate what that income is at a point in time in the future. So I like to say you can't break it, you can only use it. I think the more you use it, the better understanding you'll have of what your retirement income is. And you do that through Benefits Access. At this point, we hope that everyone is enrolled in Benefits Access. If you're not, that would be your first to-do item. I apologize for giving you homework so early in the presentation, but the first thing is, if you're not registered for Benefits Access, you want to make sure that you do that soon. And you would just go to benefitsaccess.org and then follow the steps to register. And then in Benefits Access, I love this, the picture on the right-hand side. So when you log into Benefits Access, you'll see everything that you have available to you from Wespath. In this example, you'll see life and disability, well-being, health, and then to the left, the health is retirement, kind of what we're talking about today. But you'll be able to see everything that you have available from Wespath in that account. You'll also be able to look at your information, your indicative data, name, address. Same for your spouse, date of birth. Beneficiary designations, you'll do that in Benefits Access. Primary beneficiaries are typically spouses. Secondaries are typically children. Children also move, so you can update their address, their phone number, all that stuff right there in your account. Clergy service records, important. And don't fret, if you haven't been this acquainted with your account, your Benefits Access account, during the consultation, we can actually help walk you through all these different areas and show you where they're at. But if you wanted to forge out on your own, that's awesome. Remember, you can't break it, you can only use it. The more you use it, I think the easier it is, and to feel confident about that. You can take a look at your life stage investment management profile, and then my favorite thing to do is run a benefit projection. So, and the reason why we talk so much about Benefits Access is because when you retire, that's where you're going to make your choices. That's where you'll pick your annuity for MPP. That's where you'll pick your annuity for your CRSPDB. That's where you'll set up that distribution from your cash accounts from CRSPDC and UMPIP. So that will be your retirement plan kind of management area. You'll be able to go in and make all those choices. It has gotten a lot easier to do. It's a stepwise process. And then you'll want to make those choices. You'll want to make your annuity choices by Friday, June 30th, 2023. So we're already talking about mid-year next year at 3 p.m. Central. So that's the drop dead deadline to make those choices. Every time we say that, we always follow up with, please don't wait until the morning of June 30th to start figuring all this stuff out. We could have a storm, Wi-Fi goes out, what have you. So just make sure that you are going to make your choices well before that date. So now we can talk about all the different sources of your income and your spouse's income in retirement. And I've chatted with clergy recently during the consultations where, they're retiring at 65, their spouse is a year or two younger than them, so they're going to continue to work for a little bit longer. All that kind of, and they had retirement plans. So EY can help consolidate and pull together and help you understand what your household retirement income picture looks like. So that you might have access to other plans. You might have an IRA or a Roth IRA. But from Wespath, you've got the CRSP, Clergy Retirement Security Program, that offers two components. One is that lifelong monthly benefit can't outlive. The other one is the defined contribution account that offers flexibility in how you want to receive that money. Next up is MPP, or Ministerial Pension Plan. This covered service from 82 through 2006. And this is an account balance. You could see this in your quarterly statement. It's invested using life stage investment management. When you begin that benefit, 65% becomes a lifetime annuity offering security. And then that remaining 35% stays on as an account balance and offering flexibility in how you want to receive that income. For those who had service prior to 1982, there's the pre-retirement plan that we'll cover a little bit today. And then UMPIP is the defined contribution plan that's available to clergy as well as laity. And for clergy, we're hoping you're contributing at least 1% to that, because that would make a positive impact on your retirement. But when you contribute at least 1% to UMPIP, an additional 1% will go into your CRSP DC account. And Cheryl will have more on that. So that was basically reviewing all the different plans, taking a look at where your retirement income is coming from, and then we suggest going to the My Social Security, or going to SSA.gov to create your own My Social Security account. I remember years ago, the Social Security Administration used to send out reports every year, every other year, that showed your earnings and the amount that was credited toward Social Security. Well, they no longer do that. And this, going into this account or setting up your account there, you'll be able to get an estimate of what your retirement benefits are, verify what you've earned to make sure that it's all accounted for. If there's an error, there's time to get it corrected. And then next up, call EY. So EY Financial Planner Line, they are a wonderful group of people. They're financial planners, but they've also been trained in all the Wespath retirement plans, all the Wespath funds, so that they are uniquely positioned to help you. Some questions that you might ask them is, how much can you afford in housing in retirement? What does my retirement picture look like? Maybe you've got other sources of retirement income that's coming in. They can help pull that in and give you an idea of what your monthly income would look like. They love to talk about cost of living adjustments. It's listed there as a COLA. You'll pick your cost of living adjustments on two of the annuities. Then a down payment for a house. Let's say you need to purchase a home. So there's a couple ways to get a down payment. Should you take a loan out of your UMPIP account for that? Or should you take a distribution? And they could talk to you at length about those pros and cons for that. So EY is a great resource. And then next up, for those folks who are going to be retiring in 2023, you need to notify some groups and some people, some important people, the bishop, the board of ordained ministry, notify your cabinet. And then we always suggest call EY. EY is uniquely positioned to help you. And they are paid salary, the planners, so they don't get paid based on their advice or trying to sell you something. The key phrase there is objective advice. They are not enriched by the advice they provide you. So now we could talk about the income and where it'll come from. So Cheryl will take us through the retirement plans, CRSP, going all the way back to pre-82. And then I'll come back in on UMPIP.
Thank you, Todd. You could just make sure that everything is looking good from here, showing my screen. Does that look good?
I see that you've had a number of phone calls.
Well, that
Looks like I see ring.
is correct. I have. But how about that?
I still see the ring slide.
Up there. Apologize for the technical difficulties here on my side. How about, oh,
Okay.
is that good?
I don't see that
No?
you're sharing yet.
Okay, let's see here.
We did get a question about what about
Thank you.
voluntary with less than 20 years? I would need to investigate that. I'm not sure that exists. We always talk about the 20-year voluntary retirement as attaining 20 years and then retiring and then coming back at a later date, at earliest 62, to begin the benefits that you've had at that time. But I will investigate that and then provide that answer. Cheryl, do you want me to share my screen and then you could just say advance, or I can?
Yeah, how about we do that? I apologize for that technical difficulty here. Let's bring this back up. Okay, a couple things. And all right, so we're going to be talking about all of these different Wespath retirement plans. And we're first of all going to start with our CRISP plan. The CRISP is actually set up in two different time periods. So we've got the amount from 2014 and then the amount from 2007 through 2013. So we are going to cover all of this in this section, but let's start with the next slide going on, and as far as the CRISP retirement program. And we're going to talk about the DB component, which is also what we call the defined benefit. We do like our acronyms here at Wespath, so defined benefit is DB. So we're first going to start with that, and it's the defined benefit, or it provides the monthly benefit. And the second component is the defined contribution, or DC, which is an account balance. So if we go on to the next slide, we're just going to be looking at, let's look at the defined component, because that's a little bit more involved, and those decisions are not revocable. So we would definitely want to make sure that you're aware of all of the different options that are available to you. So going on to the next slide, so the defined benefit is not a balance. It's actually a formula. So big time, it's a formula. So first we have to multiply three factors together. So what are those three factors? Well, let's go through those. So the first factor is what's called the denominational average compensation, or DAC. We take that amount and then we multiply by either a factor of 1.25% or 1%. And that's the reason why there's that difference between the two times of service. And this is the only difference, is that factor. And I'll tell you why in just a little bit. And then we multiply the third amount, or the third factor is your credited service during that period of time. So however length of time you are in that particular type of plan, that's your credited service. So going on to the next, so let's find out, okay, what is the DAC, or that denominational average compensation? So going on, it's the number. The number is actually an average of all the clergy members' annual compensation who are serving full-time appointments. This is the number that's used to calculate the defined benefit of the CRISP formula. As you can see, we have all the numbers, from the past, from 21, 22 for this year, but we also know the amount for 23. So that's going to be the amount that we utilize in the calculations for anyone who is actually retiring in 2023. So that's going to be the actual number, 76,221. So going on, what we're going to do is just do that multiplication. So we have that denominational average compensation, and then we multiply that by the factor. Now again, that factor is either 1.25% or 1%. So for the time period of January 1st of 2007 through December 31st of 2013, the factor is actually 1.25%. But for the time period of January 1st of 2014 through June 30th of 2023, assuming this is someone who's actually retiring as of July 1st of 2023, that factor is going to be 1%. Now, the reason why it went down from 1.25% down to 1% is because during General Conference of 2012, this was to help sustain the fund for a longer period of time due to the market conditions at that time. Okay, so when we go on then, the next factor then is finding out that length of service, that credited service. So the credited service is the third number used in the CRISP calculation, and that's the length of time in the credited service for each of those two time periods. So let's say that you are in CRSP for that full time period of that first period of January of 07 through December of 2013. So that's going to be a defined set time of 7 years. Now going on and going through January 14th through June 30th, again, assuming a July 1st date of retirement, that's 9.5 years. So now that we know all of our numbers, we're actually going to do the calculation. We're going to do the math. Yes, we're going to do math right now. So hopefully it's math you do on a calculator, of course, but I have it shown here on the screen. So we know the DAC, that's the 76,221. For the first period of the 1.25% multiplied by 7 years, you get an annual amount of 6,669. You divide that by 12 to get a monthly amount, and that amount is 556 per month. That's for that first time period. Now for the second time period, you have your same DAC. You multiply by 1%, since that's the factor for that time period. We have 9.5 years of service. Multiply all that out, comes up to 7241. Divide that by 12, and you get $603 per month. So when we go on to the next slide, we add those two amounts together for your full monthly CRISP DB benefit from 2007 through June 30th of 2023, and you add those together and you get an amount of $1,159. Now keep in mind, this is just an example, but this is how the calculations would work. All right, so what can actually impact that amount? Well, I'm glad you're asking that, because it is based on the decisions that you yourself make. Now, what could be those decisions that you make? Well, are you going to be covering a surviving spouse? If you are, then that can affect that amount. If you're actually going to be administering a cost of living adjustment, or what we call COLA, that you can choose. You can choose a minimum of 2%. It can go up to 5%. So whatever amount you choose does impact that initial benefit. And also, are you going to be retiring early? Because that can definitely make a difference in the amount that you are receiving. So let's give a little example as far as if you wind up retiring early. So this is assuming you have that 1159 is your full amount for 2023. But if you're going to retire at age of 63, then you actually would have a reduction in your benefits. And that would be a reduction of 0.5% per month for the amount of time that you're retiring early. So in this case, you're retiring 2 years early, then that would be a full 12-month or 12% reduction. That reduction then would be $139, bringing your monthly payment down to $1,020. So again, this is for an example if someone does not meet the 40-year service rule for the clergy, but just want to let you know that that is a factor, and that can definitely make a difference in your monthly payment. But again, whatever is right for you is what you decide at that time. So now that we talked about the defined benefit contribution, let's look at the defined benefit. Now we look at the DC component of CRISP. So again, that's your defined contribution. So that's what we're going to be looking at now. So this is a lot easier to actually look at and think about and manage. So this is actually with all the calculations that we do for the defined benefit. If we go to the next slide, then the defined contribution is actually fairly straightforward. It's actually an account balance. And you have many options with that part of the plan, so you can choose how it's to be invested. You can actually take cash distributions, or you can actually let LifeStage Investment Management calculate an amount you can withdraw monthly to help ensure that the funds last you and, if chosen, your spouse's lifetime. You could actually roll it over into your UMPIP plan, which Todd will be discussing later. You can actually do nothing and keep the money on account until you reach the age of 72. That's always an option you have, at which time you will actually need to take a required minimum distribution. That's defined by the IRS, that they have a say in that. Also, you note that any remaining funds will be paid to the beneficiaries that you have on file. So as Todd mentioned earlier, and I'm going to mention it now as well, make sure you keep those beneficiaries up to date. Look at it annually. Go out and do annual enrollment for your health benefits. Make sure you look at your beneficiaries to ensure that your funds are paid according to your wishes. All right, now we've gone through CRISP. All right, that's the plan number one. That's what our current plan is. Now we're going to actually review the Ministerial Pension Plan, or MPP. So this is an effect that was effective for a long time, and it was actually effective from 1982 through 2006. So it's a long time for that plan. So, but what is in MPP? You know, actually, as you can see, it's an account balance. And so how are those amounts invested? It's actually invested through LifeStage Investment Management. And so it's a great resource, and actually wonderful to actually have that for all the plan in place. What does it become later at retirement? Well, I'm glad you asked that, because we're going to go into that right now. So this is actually a total account balance is split into two percentages, 65% and 35%, and when they begin the benefit. So the 65% is actually a lifetime annuity. So this is actually a series of payments that is going to last your lifetime, or if you choose to elect 2 lifetimes, and if a joint annuity is elected, then it'll last 2 lifetimes. But it's actually a series of payments that you can't outlive, and it will be paid for your lifetime. You have 6 annuity options, and you want to be able to understand those types of options that you have available. And then you also have a cost of living adjustment that you can actually utilize and choose at that time as well. So for the 65%, what about the rest? What about the 35%? That's for my math-minded people. It's like, okay, what about the other 35%? Well, that is actually, the 35% is actually an account balance. And you have the flexibility for that to actually use it as for distributions if you like. You can actually have a lot of the same similarities with this that you do with the CRISP um, defined contribution account. So, so if we go on to the next, if we put it all together, you actually have the 65% for the lifetime annuity. You have the 35%, which is a cash balance. For the lifetime annuity, you have those 6 lifetime annuity options. You actually have a cost of living adjustment that you can actually choose as well. For the MPP, you also have a 0% COLA that if you would like, whereas with the CRISP, you have 2 through 5%. For the 35% for the cash, for the account balance, you can decide if you want to take any as a cash distribution. You also have many other options you can do with that. One of the more common ones is that people actually do roll that over into UMPIP again, which Todd will talk about in just a little bit. But let's look at some of those annuity options and the options you can choose from. So this is where we're going to get into those different types of options. So all of the annuity types provide you with a lifetime income. And if elected, you can actually continue to continue those lifetime options down to your surviving spouse. So this next slide is actually talking about the survivor life and survivor annuities, and if it's for yourself, and this is assuming a 2% COLA. For these type of options, we're going to go through each one of them kind of quickly, but just want to make you aware that when we're looking at this, we've got 3 different options here, and we've got 3 separate options that we'll talk about in the other couple slides. What I want you to focus on is that middle column. That's payable to you. You're only going to get one of these. You're either going to get the one in the middle and or the one on the right, but that's going to be after you're no longer here. So you're not going to get both of these columns in the middle or the right column, only one. If you decide to cover your spouse on these types of benefits, then if we look at the bottom one, which is life and 70%, you actually get a higher benefit for yourself. But if we look over after you pass, if we look over and see the payable to the contingent annuitant, which could be your spouse, that amount is $869. That's 70% of what you are making, okay, what's payable to you. If you feel that that's not enough, then we can look at the life and 85%. So we look up one row. So that's, again, these are examples, but this is $1,211. And so your amount goes down, but the amount that goes to your contingent annuitant actually goes up quite a bit. So it's $1,029. But again, if you still don't think that's enough for your contingent annuitant, then we can look at the life and 100%. So again, that's going to be the lowest option payable to you. But then after you pass, your contingent annuitant will actually receive that same amount that you are already receiving. So again, it's going to be one or the other, and those are the amounts. Again, assuming a 2% COLA with a growth in that. Okay, so we want you to understand the different options that are available to you so that you can make the best decision for you. Now, if we go on, we actually do have 3 other single life annuity options that are available. And when we look at these are available for our single participants, or these can be for married as well, but you would just need to have your spouse sign off on it saying that they're not going to accept these benefits. Now, these 3 types of annuitants, these are actually what we call paying it out, and these are actually paid to you, but it will not go to anyone else unless you choose the 5-year certain or the 10-year certain, or what we call a guarantee. So the life-only type of plan, that would be payable to you of $1,402. So again, payable to you until you pass. If you decide to retire, now I'm just picking out numbers, if you decide to retire when you're 65, and let's say maybe you want to ensure that your grandchild is continuing with their college education, and should you maybe happen to pass when you're 67, there's still, if you choose a 5-year or a 10-year certain or a guarantee, those amounts would still be paid to whomever your beneficiary is. So if your grandchild if you wanted to make sure your grandchild had some additional money coming in for their college, then if you choose the 5-year certain or 5-year guarantee and you pass after 2 years have gone by, 3 additional years will be paid with the 5-year certain, 5-year guarantee. So that $13.94 will be paid to whomever you choose. And again, with the 10-year certain, again, if you pass after 2 years, it'd be 8 years left that would be paid. So just different items to think about. And again, we want you to understand all 6 types of annuity options so that you can pick the best for you, but also want you to understand all the other types of options so that you're making the best decision for you and your family. All right. Now, we talked about the annuitants. Now let's talk about COLA. COLA is also another type of increase that can affect your monthly payment. So if you decide to pick, you have your option to pick what type of COLA that you would like. So how big can it get? So we go on to the next. You actually have your option of COLA from 0%, but that's for the MPP only. You can go all the way up to 2% is the default COLA for the both for CRISP as well as MPP, but you can also go up to 3%, 4%, or even 5%. So those are the options that you have, and this does definitely affect the COLA, because if we go on to the next, it says, does this COLA impact my initial benefit? And the answer is a resounding yes, it does affect it. And here's how. So looking onto this next slide, this chart shows if we were to take our original benefit and let's show at a 0%, it's going to be, but if we look at a 2% COLA, you're going to have like an initial payment and steadily increase. If we look at that 5% COLA, you're going to have the lowest initial benefit, but then it's going to steadily increase over time. Looking at the next one, it'll be for the 0% COLA, so it's just going to be your highest benefit, but it's going to be straight, completely across the board. And then we'll put in the other amounts in there, the 3%, 4%. So you can see your different initial benefit is going to be a little bit different, but your amounts that you get in during the course of your lifetime do go up. So whatever is best for you, you'll decide that. Again, 2% is usually a nice default, so that you can see your amount going up. But again, whatever works best for you. All right, so let's go through a summary of the MPP considerations. Again, you can leave this money on account until you're 72. You can actually choose that annuity and COLA options. That's definitely up to you. Many different choices, so it can be different for each type of account, not just the same for all of them. You can actually take that 35% of an account balance and wait on the 65%, again, until you're 65. So again, you have that flexibility. You can roll that 35% over into your UMPAP. And again, Todd will talk about the UMPAP voluntary plan as well. Again, you can actually roll that over into another retirement plan if you like, but you also want to make sure that you review that housing allowance exclusion. Again, Todd will talk about that in a little bit as well. But you've got a lot of other distribution options as well. So again, the idea to take away from this is flexibility. You have a lot of flexibility with these types of plans. All right, now that's MPP and all of the COLA as well as the annuity options that were available. Now let's talk about pre-82 for just a little bit, because we do have some people that registered for this webinar that are actually still in the pre-82. Now, what does pre-82 mean? Or that's the retirement plan for people who were in registry or in the ministry or in the plans prior to 1982. So yes, we do have some people that are still in that, so that's wonderful. So the pre-82 was actually eligible for clergy service prior to 1982. So this is actually a plan that's fairly easy to understand as well. You're actually, but some math is involved. You're either going to get, or for this pre-82 plan, there is a defined benefit service money, or DBSM, and there's a formula benefit. Both amounts are calculated, and the participant will actually receive the highest benefit. So So yes, there's math, but you'll receive the highest benefit. So for the pre-82, it's actually paid for lifetime. So it's an annuity that you're not going to outlive. For a single life, you'll receive that amount, but once you pass, then there's actually nothing will be passed on to any beneficiaries. Okay, it's going to cease upon your death. If there's a married participant, there's going to be a life and percentage to the surviving spouse. Each conference can be different, so you want to check with them to see what that percentage is, but it can be anywhere between 70% up to 100%. And again, that's going to be provided you have a spouse at the time of your retirement. We know that sometimes things happen. You wind up getting married after you retire. It would have to be as the date of your retirement if you're married at that time. All right, so it's that initial amount that that pre-82. It's a difference. Whichever one is higher is the amount that you're going to receive. All right, now we are going to talk about that UMPIP voluntary benefits. So I'm going to turn it back over to Todd, and he's going to take it from here.
Thank you, Cheryl. Whoops. There we go. And Cheryl, you could still see my screen?
Yes, it looks great. Thank you.
Thank you. So UMPIP is technically it's a defined contribution plan. It'll accept contributions from both employers and plan sponsors, but also via participants. And that's done through a payroll deduction, either before tax, after tax, a Roth. All of those can be made via payroll deduction. And then just like the other DC accounts, you have the ability to self-manage. So that means you pick your own funds and you determine how your contributions are allocated across those funds. That works for some folks. About 80% of the individuals in UMPIP are actually using Life Stage Investment Management. So you're in great company there. Life Stage Investment Management picks your funds and determines that allocation, essentially places your account on autopilot. In active service, here are the 4 ways to contribute to your UMPIP account on a before tax basis, an after tax basis, and a Roth. And all of these there's a section for each of these on that contribution election form. You can change your contribution at any time. You just complete that form, give it to your employer, your HR department, and then they would remit it for processing. A 4th way to contribute would be through rollovers, and that would be moving a prior employer's retirement account, like a 403B or a 401k, needs to be IRS qualified, and rolling that into your UMPIP account. So here are 2022 contribution limits. They're pretty big numbers. If you're under 50, you can contribute 20,500. If you're over 50, that's an additional 6,500 in before tax and Roth combined. What we have for you today is the 2023 contribution limits. So you'll see they boosted these up quite a bit. So before tax and Roth, now you can contribute 22,500 beginning in 23. The catch-up contributions increased 1,000 to 7,500 for a total of $30,000 if you're over the age of 50 and before tax and Roth contributions. Big number. We're hoping that everybody on the phone or everybody on the webinar today is contributing at least 1% to their UMPIP, particularly if they're clergy, and then make a plan to increase that over time. Like my wife and I paid off a car recently, so now we're taking that car payment, putting a little bit more into my UMPIP account, and then also saving that for repairs as that car ages. Real quick on UMPIP before tax. So you avoid your paying income tax on that money now, or the earnings and income tax is deferred. So you make a contribution before those taxes are taken out, saving you in income taxes. When you take a distribution in retirement, you'll actually be taxed on those, on that distribution. As clergy, you'll have the ability to use the housing allowance exclusion in retirement to offset some of those taxes, and we'll talk more about that in a second. Roth contributions are interesting because you pay your taxes now. They're a form of after tax. So you pay your taxes now, your income tax, and then when you take a distribution, that distribution could be income tax free if you meet these two criteria. The first is the first Roth contribution needs to be made at least 5 years before your withdrawal. And you need to attain at least the age of 59 and a half. So if you meet both of those criteria, that distribution is then tax-free, income tax-free. And then rollovers, I love this diagram. I love that picture because that's exactly what rollovers are. Means that your money is portable. You could roll over a prior employer's plan into your UMPIP account and then take distributions from there. You just complete the incoming rollover form and then submit that to Wespath. That form is actually located in your benefits access account. We'd be more than happy to show you where it's located. In retirement, you've got choices. So in retirement, your monthly paycheck goes away. The retirement plans are designed to replace that income, and this UMPIP account is designed to help replace some of that income. You can take a cash installment, and you've got two options here. The first would be you tell Wespath how much you'd like to have in your account each month, $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month. That choice is up to you. The other option would be to use life stage retirement income. And life stage retirement income would calculate a payment for you, a monthly payment. And that's that life stage retirement income calculates the payment within a safety zone so that it's trying to make that account balance or that monthly payment last a lifetime. The other two options would be to take a partial lump sum or a full lump sum distribution. And in those cases, we like to caution clergy to say, if you're rolling it out in a big lump sum, are there any tax consequences for that? And then what about the housing allowance, or what about the housing allowance exclusion? Would you lose that housing allowance exclusion on that money? Potentially yes, but you'd want to confirm that with EY. Like with all account balances, any remaining balance upon the participant's death will be distributed to beneficiaries. So make sure you keep those up to date. The required minimum distribution is to begin no later than April 1st of the following year after the participant turns 72. So if you turn 72 this year, then you need to take an RMD by April 1st of next year. Wespath will help keep track of that for you. But one thing that you want to consider is if you'll have to take two RMDs next year. One for 2022 by April 1st, and then you'll need to take the 2023 as well. So just something to think about from a tax perspective, and EY can help walk you through that. Once you begin RMDs, you'll need to continue taking RMDs, and that RMD is based off of the prior year's balance. If you haven't begun your other benefits, MPP, CRSP, DB, or pre-82, you'll need to begin those at that time as well. And then federal tax withholding. So Wespath is required to withhold 20% on partial or full distributions. And this isn't a penalty. This is prepaying your taxes. And we're required to withhold 10% on an RMD. Each year you'll receive a 1099 from Wespath, and it'll show how much you've received from Wespath in income. It'll also show any withholding for that. So now let's do our last polling question. Just a real quick one. This is it's a true false, I believe. Is that correct? Yes.
Yes, that is correct. All right, so when you retire at normal retirement age of 65, you must commence all of your Wespath retirement benefits immediately. I think Todd just went over that, didn't he? So hopefully you're going to get the answers correct here, but I know we're running a little bit late on time, but we have about 10 more minutes. So just you can hold in there. We'd appreciate it. All right, so we're getting a lot of good answers here. Keep going. We got we're doing good. We're doing good. Let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and close it out. So Todd, what are our results here?
We have 91% saying false and 9% saying true. And it is false. You do not need to begin all of your benefits at the time of retirement.
So we got a lot of great listeners out there today.
Yeah, that is awesome. So now let's cover life stage retirement income. Life stage retirement income up until this last spring was designed to do one thing. It was designed to calculate a monthly payment within a safety zone from your consolidated account balance. And the goal was to make that balance or make that payment last a lifetime and provide an increase based on market conditions. So it still does that, but this last spring, we've introduced two new optional features, and life stage retirement income is optional, but we've added two additional optional features to that, and we can go ahead and run the video, and then we will come back.
At age 65, Reverend Johnson began the process of retirement and setting up his retirement income. In benefits access, Reverend and Mrs. Johnson saw a combined total of $405,000 in his three Wespath-administered defined contribution, or DC, accounts. The Johnsons decided to explore life stage retirement income, which provides monthly retirement payments from DC account balances with the goal of lifetime income. Reverend Johnson first entered his Social Security benefit as reported on SSA.gov. Then he's prompted to choose the amount to fund life stage retirement income. After reviewing several retirement income scenarios, the Johnsons decided to fund life stage retirement income with $355,000. The remaining $50,000 in his UMPIP account was invested separately, and he knew he could withdraw from that account at any time. Next, the Johnsons considered the optional Social Security Bridge and Longevity Income Protection features. They learned that actual Social Security income increases by 8% annually past Social Security full retirement age, creating higher guaranteed income for their combined lifetimes. The bridge would allow Reverend Johnson to use his life stage balance early in retirement to delay applying for Social Security. They elected the bridge, with Reverend Johnson deciding to start Social Security benefits at age 70. This allowed his initial life stage retirement income payments to bridge the financial gap until his Social Security income begins. Next, the Johnsons explored longevity income protection, a deferred annuity held by an insurance company providing guaranteed monthly income starting at age 80. They saw they could only select this feature during enrollment. Curious about its benefits, the Johnsons called their EY financial planner, who explained the pros and cons, as well as IRS rules for this deferred annuity, or QLAC. She also explained that taxes are due when monthly payments begin. The Johnsons elected to use part of his life stage balance to purchase this option, understanding that the decision was final. When Reverend Johnson's life stage retirement income payments began, the deferred annuity contract amount transferred from his life stage balance to the insurance company. When Reverend Johnson turned 67, the Johnsons decided to host a destination family reunion, knowing they could take a lump sum of $15,000 from his UMPIP balance to pay for it. They also considered taking the lump sum from his life stage account and logged into Benefits Access to model a new monthly retirement income scenario. Comfortable with this new income amount, they proceeded with the lump sum withdrawal from life stage and organized the reunion. At age 70, Reverend Johnson began receiving Social Security benefits. His income remained the same, but now less came from life-stage retirement income. Once he reached 80, he began receiving longevity income protection payments. Reverend Johnson passed away at 90, knowing that Mrs. Johnson would continue to receive lifetime income. When Mrs. Johnson passed away, the remaining life stage and UMPAP balances were transferred to her selected beneficiaries. Start your own journey with life stage retirement income.
And this next slide,
If you'd like to share your screen again, there you go, perfect.
so this slide kind of just encapsulates that video. I think that video is really well done. To me, this is the simplicity of what that video just covers. So this is an example where a clergy person is retiring. They plan on using the Social Security bridge, and they also plan on the longevity income protection. So retirement begins, let's say 65, 67, and then you'll see it's all life stage. So they're receiving their other payments from CRSP, DC, a DB, and there's MPP annuity payment. And they're also receiving a payment from life stage, and that life stage payment also includes that Social Security bridge. And the money that they'd be receiving from Social Security is coming to them through the life stage payment. And then at 70, you'll see that Social Security has begun. There's a decrease in the payment from life stage, and now Social Security, that Social Security benefit is bigger. When you delay taking Social Security beyond your full retirement age, that benefit increases about 8% per year. So now they're in 70, and they're moving on up into their 80s. So at 80, that annuity kicks in, and you'll see it's in the lighter blue color. Their income is up a little bit, again, based on Social Security increases. Their longevity income protection has begun. And now you'll see that teal, the reliance or that payment from life stage has decreased even more because of the guaranteed income from that annuity that begins at 80. So we're a little over time. The housing allowance exclusion is terrific. It's a wonderful tax break for retired clergy. It's in your retired status with your annual conference. There is did we include the housing allowance worksheet on that dashboard?
Yes, we did.
Perfect. So you can download that. That's a worksheet that looks like an IRS form. It's actually been put together by Wespath, and it talks about the three scenarios that you'll go through each year to determine how much can be excluded from income tax, federal taxes. The first is easy. That's what you find out every annual conference. And I've only heard of annual conferences saying that 100% of what you receive from Wespath can be designated. So that's great. The second is what you've actually spent in housing for the year. That includes rent payments, mortgage payments, interest, utilities, furnishings. You can even keep track of Windex and paper towels. And there's a section that talks to that on that form. And then the fair rental value is what your home would rent for that period of time with furnishings and utilities. And then just a real quick example. So this clergy person received $24,000 from income in income from Wespath. 100% of that was designated, so that becomes that number. And then they spent $20,000 in housing. Their home would rent for $21,000. So the housing allowance exclusion cannot exceed the lesser of those three scenarios. So that means the housing allowance exclusion is $20,000. It cannot go above $20,000. So you take that housing allowance exclusion number, which is $20,000, minus or subtract what you received in pension from Wespath. That means the taxable amount is $4,000, not the $24,000. It's available to retired clergy. It's not applicable or it's not transferable to a surviving spouse, unless, of course, that surviving spouse is also clergy. On the back of that form, there's some suggested language to include in your submission to the IRS. And now we will pass it over to Cheryl to bring us home with the various resources.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and keep your slides up. We'll go through this pretty quickly here. So Wespath does partner with EY Financial Planning Services. We've been talking about them several times throughout this webinar. So think of them as your strategic financial partner. So again, what they can do and what they can help you with, it's available at no cost to you. We can actually we can't state that it's free, because the plan does pay for it, but you don't have to pay anything for it. So if you already have a financial planner, great. Now you have two. So definitely utilize them. You can call them up and get their information over the phone. The phone number and website is there. So it just takes a few minutes to set it up, and they can talk to you about a wide range of topics, whether that's retirement, debt, maybe if your Roth contribution is right for you. Again, a lot of different things that they can help you with. No question is too big or too small for them. So we definitely recommend that you go ahead and utilize them. The next slide is actually reaching out to us at Wespath here, because we do have these virtual one-on-one consultations. You can actually meet with one of our benefit educators. And look, if you have eagle eyes, you can see that person in the laptop, that's actually Todd, the one who has been working with me and my co-presenter today. So here's the registration link to actually get a free 30-minute consultation with one of them. And but again, we're going to send this presentation out at the end of when you receive the consultation link, so that you can actually look at this again. So all of the slides will be there. Wouldn't be one of our Wespath webinars without having an action planning checklist. So again, go out to Benefits Access. That's where you're going to make your elections, review your beneficiary designations. You can see if you're actually in life stage investment management. You can review your profile. Maybe you want to change your profile from moderate to conservative, or even to aggressive. You can actually go out and do those benefit projections that Todd talked about and see if there's any gaps there. You definitely call EY. We can't say enough great things about them. And also go ahead and start your benefit education consultation. As you get nearer to that retirement date, they're here to try to help alleviate any questions or concerns that you have. All right. So the next thing we have are our participant resources. A plethora of them to list out there. Our participant solutions team, of course, our consultations, benefit access, as well as EY. So that brings us to the end of our presentation. So hopefully we've answered all of the questions that have come in. If we haven't, we will definitely get those out to you. And we will definitely be getting that consultation link, as well as the list of these slides out. So on behalf of Todd Crevston and myself, Cheryl Hatcher, I want to thank you very much for your time and attention today for this pre-retirement webinar, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.